podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Sammons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, I'm joined by Jeannie Dougherty, the founder of The Money Whisperer, a financial therapist, coach, and speaker who helps individuals and business owners transform their relationship with money, not just through numbers, but through mindset and emotion. Her mission is simple yet powerful: to help people stop fighting with money and start partnering with it so they can live richer, fuller, and more intentional lives. Jeannie, thank you so much for joining me today. Very warm welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just very excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you here, and I'm very excited to dive in. So typically with all of my guests, I like to start at the beginning of the journey. So can you maybe take me back to what it was that you was doing before you started up The Money Whisperer? And then from there, what motivated you to start up the company?
Yeah, so my story is a bit of what we call the heroine's journey. So my story started in a place that I never, ever thought I was going to be at. And then I ended up over here, which is becoming a money whisperer. And basically, both of my parents unfortunately passed away from Alzheimer's in my 20s and early 30s. Because what happened is my parents, through no fault of their own, but we had no previous family history. And so statistically, they were diagnosed younger and then they died obviously younger. And my parents were divorced, but after my mother died, we found out another family member, unfortunately, financially exploited her estate, which is a nice technical term, meaning they stole everything she had and was not spent on her care. So we went to court for 2 years and we lost. And I will tell you that litigation over family matters and it's not just the money, but going over like this care was supposed to happen and you were responsible for the following and la 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 didn't happen. It's a pretty painful wound that doesn't automatically close. So I went to dance classes because that makes total sense, right? But there was a really specific reason. I heard too many lies. And when I would go to my friends or my colleagues, and I'd like try to explain the situation, people would be angry or they'd be like, I don't know. And in some cases, people didn't even believe that my parents had Alzheimer's. They thought I was making it up. I was like, you're obviously not a friend, but thanks. So, I went into this, thing and I was dancing and I was there for like 2 years. And then I walked in one day and there was this flyer on the wall. This is all pre-pandemic when people actually printed stuff up against a wall. And it was called Dance and Money. And I was like, I think I should go. It was like for 4 days, 2.5 hours away. And I was like, I'm going to go. So I did. And I met my very first emotional behavioral money coach, which is what I later became after doing a year's worth of training with this money coach. And it was life empowering. And I couldn't believe how much it made sense when because we would dance out terrible, painful money scenes in our lives. I wasn't the only one. And it was just so revealing to understand like how families choose certain people to believe their lies and to believe what they're doing because they think they're going to get a payoff. And we did have that in the family. And so even though you're like, but this isn't making sense, da, 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 and whatever. So it was very, very helpful. But I'm not the only one who's had a family member that was financially exploited. Millions, actually, especially across the globe. Maybe there might even be 1 billion people. It's awfully highly underreported in families because families are deeply embarrassed or they fight pretty nastily over it. So they don't really want to make it public knowledge because then people are going to know you get a lot of cheap people in your family. You got to address that, right? So it was a very empowering experience to find money coaching because I really needed an answer. I wanted answers. I was like, how the heck did this keep happening? So I started my money coaching business. Then voila, hello, pandemic. Remember that? Remember we all run around with masks and,
Slightly.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe you got a vaccine, maybe you didn't. But, it was a period in our lives across the globe that people were sick and they were dying at a very fast rate. And here in the US, I was looking at the numbers and I noticed that more caregivers were dying at a faster rate, up to 40% in some cases. So they were taking care of aging loved ones, they're taking care of their children, and they are isolated. They have health issues. They didn't have access maybe to medication or to whatever, anything, and so people started to die a little death, but then they got really sick in some cases and they didn't survive. And I kept saying to people who I thought were a little smarter than me, going, do you know what's going to happen if the nurturers or the caregivers of everyone's family just dies? Like 40% of them are just gone, wiped from the earth across the globe, not just here in the US. I'm like, we're going to have more substance abuse, more wars, more if you're into the media or you don't like the media, more propaganda. I could just go on and on and on. But
Yeah.
if you think it's bad today, imagine it 40% worse.
Yeah.
And
I don't want,
so go ahead, please.
no, I don't want to imagine 40% worse. So please
Yeah.
continue.
So, yeah. So I was like, shoot, I guess I have to throw my hat in the ring. And
Yeah.
that was my initial thought because I studied for like a year, like, what's the best way to reach as many caregivers as possible? Because, you're kind of like screaming into the void. And
Yeah.
that was really coming out. And so I decided to create a caregiver conference. I have no idea how to run a caregiver conference. I can tell you now, I can tell you all kinds of details about how to run a caregiver conference now. But I created it because I thought if I don't start now, even if it's not that great of an idea, it will never change. Like I will never see the difference. And, as Gandhi says, you need to be the change that you want to see in the world. And I was like, I want to see caregivers as visible, as valuable, and I want them to actually get paid for their worth. And I know we need to change a whole ton of laws, and I'm all for that because these people are staying at home or being forced to stay at home and they cannot have a life. And if that makes the patriarchy, the very toxic patriarchy, happy, I don't think we're doing our job here as human beings on this planet. We could actually have a different life. So I said, that's it, I'm going to create that. So this year, yay, November 2025, I have my third annual caregiver conference, and the theme is so on point for 2025. How to stay sane in an insane world, because it's not sane out there. And I'm very excited that I have like a private investigator talking to people about scams. And, I've certainly got some financial experts outside of me talking about what they can do. And, I've got memory experts and I just all kinds of like juicy, important things that we need because neurodiversity isn't going away because we're recognizing it more and more. So we need to have coaches for that. We need to have people go like, I need to probably get hired, but hire this person. It's like, yeah, because the parenting you did or parenting you might have experienced is not the same. And it's
Yeah.
not the same when you've got a parent, you're a parent. I have personal experience of doing that with my mother and father having to be the adult because they couldn't because they were so sick.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that journey and for sharing your journey with us. That was really incredible. And I'm so glad that you kind of found a light at the end of that and really like pulled you through it and into something that you can really help other people with too. So let's dive into the business a little bit more so we have some more
Sure.
context moving forward. So caregivers, I'm assuming is the ICP, the people we love to work with the most. Um, that's who
No,
we're trying to help.
no, that's the funny thing. I think it's
Okay.
my mission to do that, to work with caregivers, but that's not
Okay.
like my favorite person to work with. But
Okay.
I notice that more entrepreneurs are caregivers.
Very good. Okay. So my first question to you, can you please describe a caregiver for me?
A caregiver, the ones that I particularly work with, I work with working caregivers, meaning they might have a job or they might have a business, and they are trying to manage either a child with long-term health issues, doesn't always have to be neurodiversity, or they have an aging loved one. So it could be a brother, maybe with, again, long-term health issues. It could definitely be a mom or dad, or your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend.
Awesome. And then, so from there, who would you say is that you love to work with the most? And then how is it you help them and support them through the programs?
Okay, so this is kind of a shift, but who do I love to work with the most? Couples. Why?
Okay.
Because it helps them reevaluate what we call like, what is the responsibilities of, said couple. Many times couples will make a lot of decisions by default by saying like, well, I can't handle it. And they're like, well, I can't handle it. And so nothing gets done. But when you
Interesting.
talk about, not just the chores and not talking about like, oh, what should be done, it's like, what are you doing when it comes to the money? Because this is like a big thing when I work with couples. They're not all getting divorced, by the way. Most of the couples I work with do not want to get divorced. They want to know how they're going to make it through their retirement because it's like,
Mm,
again, huge thing in the Western world. Gray
mm,
divorce. People in their 50s are like, I'm not doing another them 30 years with this person. I'm out. Or it's like, I don't know how we're going to do retirement because, again, once the caregiver or the primary nurturer often had to work, maybe later in life, or they didn't work as much, or they didn't make as much money. So they can't necessarily just say, like, oh, yeah, you're right. Let's just go move, to Haiti. And, even though my entire life and all my friends and like my entire healthcare is based here, but you want to just get away. It's like, well, how are you going to plan that if that's really the ultimate plan that you guys live in
mm.
Tahiti? Probably not going to happen. But let's say that is the plan, it's like that might take another 15 years. And like some spouses are like, I don't get it. Like I've prepared, I've done everything for you, meaning the money's there, but they're like, but money means different things
Yeah.
for couples. Like some people, this is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
freedom, not power. It's freedom.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
want to give that up.
Yeah, exactly. It's your definition of finance is it rolls on that. And I suppose couples can have very different opinions on that aren't expressed, that aren't communicated between them. So how is it that you support them and how exactly does the coaching program or aspect come into it?
Great question. So, how I support them is I put them through a money boot camp for about 90 days, and we
Okay.
rewire the specific behaviors and really take a good look at their money values to see how they can make adjustments. Because there's some things you're probably always going to be like, if you're always a saver and you're like, let's save everything in the room, that kind of
Mhm.
extreme saving we call hoarding in some cases. That's great. They often pair with a spender who's like, let's go, let's spend
Helpful.
it
Yeah.
all, let's move it. So you have to learn how to like dial it in and dial it back in order for really the relationship to continue. And again, if it's sort of like, well, I'm only going to obsess over our investments, but I expect you to run the budget, but I'm not going to give you a
Mhm.
lot for the budget. Okay, that's a problem. So it's one of those things like, more couples are choosing to have their own bank accounts, which is great in
Mm,
terms of paying, say, like home bills and like electricity, gas, all that good stuff. But it can be a real concern for what, like, where are we going to go on vacation? And
yeah.
then what are we going to do when it comes to paying for the kids? Like if it's outside of education or, the usual stuff. And what, again, I see as a lot of nurturers is that whatever money they have in their bank account, they will put towards their children. It's not a bad investment. But then the other person will be like, well, where'd all the money go? Well, we had to get extra cleats for baseball. And they're like, extra cleats? They grew, like it happens. Like your child will go through growth spurts and you got to go through a whole nother wardrobe and more shoes because the kid's growing. And it just happens. But if you're somebody who's not that keyed in or clued in, you're like, why are we
Yeah.
spending all this money?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Makes sense. So we align them and get them on the same page essentially and see what happens moving forward from there. So 90 days is a program. And then
Mhm.
from there, is there any kind of top ups or do you end up working with people slightly longer or is it pretty much like solid from there?
I can. And so one of the reasons I love about money coaching is that we're not here to like coach you for a whole year unless you really
Yeah.
want that. I have some clients who are like that. They're like, no, it's going to be a year. And that's smart. But I find with couples' busy work schedules and things like that, if you are like, listen, we got 90 days, we really got to figure this out. And then we only have to go back if we need to, then you have much more, again, freedom and
Mm.
empowerment in the coaching client, which is a good thing. You don't want them dependent on you. That doesn't help
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, I love that. That's very clever. And then, so in terms of like going about and acquiring your customers at the moment, how are you finding most success? Like, where are you finding?
Referrals, number one.
Yeah.
I feel like word of mouth referrals will never go away, no matter
Yeah.
what the AI system is. It's definitely developing relationships through networking, but understanding, the difference between a strategic partner and then understanding like who is the person like in 5 years or less that you would really like to meet. So like there's like a great expression like who is your Oprah? Used in business networking, but it's usually like you have to be like kind of in it a lot longer than say a minute to understand that in networking. A lot of people can't even get a pitch down, let alone how to put an ask out. So that's all
Yeah.
skill, but people just aren't that again tune in to who are you talking to again? Yeah. And then, of course, social media. If you don't know how to have a conversation on social media, you haven't figured out which algorithm works for you in terms of platforms, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm sure I missed a bunch. Oh, TikTok. Where do you want to go? Because there you can create a lot of noise, which is, content, but the people who love you and who will hire you, they just want to see good stuff. They don't need to see a lot of volume.
Yeah, I agree. So how are you managing with your social media? Are you running any form of ads or is it like purely organic at the moment to bring traction in?
So, when I'm in what I call caregiver season, I know exactly what I'm going to do for about 30 days in terms of how I want to run my social media. So, and it's easy. I just do it by automation.
Mm.
And I have my VA who creates, maybe any type of infographic, but not even that anymore. It's all video. So it's like me talking, and then I have a little bit of software that'll just cut it up and put it out there, and then I'm good. But you still have to know your own voice and you have to know who you're talking to. And I wish that was an easy thing. And this is where I think a lot of marketers and salespeople try very hard to help your average entrepreneur, especially if it's an online business, and it goes badly. Why? It's because what people think is not really through experience, and it's also not able, they're not able to pull their own selves out of the equation, which is why I offer, for entrepreneurs, an actual 6-month program about how to work with your own money psychology so that you can understand other people's money psychology. So it makes it a lot easier for them to buy. It's
Yeah.
amazing to me how people are like, well, I'm a very, like, I want to see a lot of details and all that stuff. Okay. Okay, that person might take 2 years before they're gonna buy from you. And if you have a business, you might need to figure out who's willing to buy today. That's a different money psychology. That may not be your ideal person, but and it's a question of, are you willing to adjust your own money psychology to talk to somebody who's ready to buy today? And you'd be amazed. Like people are like, well, okay. I guess broke is good on you. I don't know, because
That's
that's the way
why.
some people run a business. They're broke all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, you have to give out what you want to attract, right? So that
Yeah.
makes full sense. Get your mindset around it and then move it from there. So, what is working well for you at the moment? How are you doing it?
What I'm glad you used the word energy. To me, what I notice is how dialed I am into my own excitement about what I'm about to put out there in terms of content. Like if I'm like, gosh, I think this is brilliant. It might not be brilliant, but it's directed to the right people, the ICP. It's
Yeah.
directed in a way that I would feel proud of the writing. I don't use ChatGPT, not because I'm anti LLMs. It's just that I know I have such a creative mind that I don't need to go ask a computer a question, or
Mhm.
AI in this case. I don't have to ask AI a question. I'm like, I already know what the answer is. And so I just tune in. I literally take 15 minutes, I write my post, and then it's out.
Awesome. And it's purely
Mhm.
organic, right? The traffic you're bringing, or are you running ads to help on top of
Oh,
that?
no, no ads, purely organic. And it makes
Organic.
it more fun
Okay.
for me. And I do kind of, and that's part of my money psychology. Like other people I know, they have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads thinking they're going to get people in less than 3 seconds. And I'm like, well, you could, but probably not. Like, just think about products. Like, do you want to buy this new little spongy thing for makeup? And that's not my, what I mean? Like, I don't sell that, but
Yeah.
in order to get somebody's attention, they might have to see it 20 times in an ad
Very
before
true.
they'll actually consider buying.
No, it's very true. I think Google come up with a study. No, it takes like 7 contact points before you build that personal connection online or something. And it's very true. But I mean, you can get it done in 3 seconds, but you have to be on the money, on point, knowing exactly what you're doing as you
And you're
kind
going
of,
to waste a lot of money guessing. Ooh.
and you will. And a lot of people actually waste a lot of money trying to get it perfect. And it's like if it's not working after $50, we don't need to be investing $10,000 on ads for the same thing that's not
Hello.
gonna
Perfect.
work.
I'm so
Exactly.
glad you said that. Yeah, if it's not working, it's not working. With my caregiver conference last year, my second one, I sold out. And it's because I just kept promoting it on my social media, all 3 of my little social media channels. But that's easier for me to keep track of. Actually, it's 4. I forgot I have YouTube. But I just did that. And then I would just constantly talk about it. And so people would be like, what's
Yeah.
your caregiver conference about? Tell me more. Or I'd be like, did you know I'm having a care? I didn't know. And that's the biggest complaint that I hear, not just about my stuff, but from anybody. Like, did you know so and so is running a webinar? Did you know so and so has been on a podcast? I didn't see it. They didn't see it. So I guess you have to do the old personal invitation. And then I hear do nothing but automation. Depending on your situation, you can, but that automation again has to be crystal clean and perfect. And I contact people like when they send me automation, I'll go, this is automation. And I'm sorry you made the assumption you think I need your services.
I am on the same boat as the automation. I think they're great to help. I mean, for example, for myself, I'm dyslexic, so it's very good for me in terms of spelling, grammar,
Right.
like that stuff is amazing. But I've never taken ideas from it. I've put what I want in. Can you check my spelling? Can you give it back to me?
Yeah.
I think that's the way forward. It's to help enhance us, and you can definitely see online when it's fully automated. And I don't think the automated systems are quite as intelligent as where we need them to be at the moment. So they're sleek and smooth, and it's like running on surface. I think the human aspect will always be needed, just because of humans like to speak and buy from humans. Um,
Yeah.
so
Surprise. Humans have the money, not the AI.
we're not at that world yet, but I mean, society. push us over the edge.
Does
So
AI really need money though? See,
I
this
don't
is
know.
the
We don't know.
thing.
Have you asked? Have you? You're the money whisperer. Have you
I'm
asked
going
any?
to tell you it doesn't. What it needs is humans. Oh, because it won't grow without a human.
There you go. So we should feed it some humans. So in terms of your sales, in terms of your sales process, what does that look like on the back end of that? So do you run any form of like sales calls, any discovery call once you've kind of
I
acquired a
sure
customer?
do. I sure do. And my aim is when I have, so I have my structure is again, I aim for simplistic, but I also aim for quality. So what I look for is, when I go into a networking meeting, I'm looking like 2 to 3 people that I think I'd actually like to. I mean, I can talk to just about anybody, but I don't need to do that. So I'm looking at about 2 to 3 people, like when I go into a networking group. When I'm on LinkedIn, I'm looking for quality that seems like it's like an actual person, and they seem to be supporting things that I'm doing, and they seem interesting, like they actually have something to say. It's not like, oh, you sound like the other 10 career coaches I've seen. Okay. So like meaning there's no difference. I can't tell you what they're up to. I couldn't tell you what the difference is.
Is lacking somewhere.
Well, or just original thought. Like they're not willing to take a chance. They're not willing to say something. So that's another big piece of it. So what I do is I look, I kind of do a careful investigation, and then I'm like, hey, I will follow them because I want to see like more of their stuff. And then I'm
Okay.
gonna, talk on their thing. It's like because within like a few days, I'm gonna find out whether I want to really follow this person or get off.
Mm.
And that's all done on my end because I've tried having like my VA or other people do it and they're terrible at it. They just look at like, oh, that's a coach, or oh, that's an entrepreneur, or oh, that's a man. And I'm like,
Mm. Okay.
oh boy, there's a lot of nuance here. So then what I do is then I just offer a coffee chat, or, can I can I hop on their
Mm.
calendar if they have one? And then I just want 30 minutes. And sometimes people immediately pitch me and I'll be like, is this a pitch? Or is this a connection call? Because I want to really know who you are. And I
Mm.
find that I have more success when I have one-to-ones, like over 50% of just like having a connection. And then when people are like, I think I need your services, you can go, great, let me tell you more about what I do.
Yeah.
Or they'll ask in that one, I'll say, this is how I work, this is what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And I love working with these people. And either you go, that's me, or you're like, I don't care.
Yeah. I get you. And I understand what you mean fully. It's like you know that you can provide the solution to their problem and you're confident of that on the phone. And I think that's a great way of selling. So
Yeah, but
agree.
it's also, it's understanding that your sale is a service
That's what I'm saying.
and it's not a pitch.
Yeah.
Like some people love pitching and some people are brilliant at pitching. I think I've got a unique brand story to use like sales and marketing language, but building this conference and becoming a money whisperer was all done on like not life one wasn't easy, wasn't perfect. I made a million mistakes. I talked to the wrong people. I invested with the wrong people. Like we could go on and on and on. But if I didn't have those experiences, then I wouldn't be able to say, listen, here's a way that you want to rethink your situation. Here's something you could maybe use. And they're like, I never thought of that. And people don't have enough one-on-ones to realize how bad they can sound, to themselves or even, online. And you're like, yeah,
Mm.
you're way behind. You didn't know.
So what does the future look like for you? So how far are you looking to scale this and take this? Are there any specific goals that you're working towards?
So I'm so glad you're asking this because this is the question I've been asking myself. I know next year when I have a caregiver conference, it will be 3 days and I will have more education pieces attached to that. And I don't know how all the details are going to look. But why am I doing that? Because I kind of got the feeling that the caregiver conference needs to get to 3 days. Doesn't need to be 4, doesn't need to be 5, but it needs another day. And then what really came forward was like, I don't know what else I can do outside the caregiver conference. And I had a conversation with a gentleman saying, why don't you create an AI chatbot in ChatGPT? And I was like, yeah, that's not, no. I mean, I see it as a tool, but I can't imagine that's going to work. I mean, it's a great lead magnet on your website because you
Yeah.
can build them independent of ChatGPT. This I do know about AI. And then of course there's quant computing and all this other good fun stuff that's, about money. But that to me was like one piece that I was like, yeah, I don't really know because I know conferences are not that they'll never go away, but how you market them and what you're going to do with them are going to look very different in 2026. And I always like to stay up and be part of the cutting edge as much as I
Mm.
can. And, because it's people who help other people. And so I think that's a huge thing. When it comes to money, it's still building relationships with people that really get it. Like, man, this year's been terrible and I need to make some changes. Or this year's been good, but we do a lot of this. And so we would like to like minimize that. Maybe just have some rolling hills instead of like
Yeah.
peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys.
No one likes a wave. No one likes a wave at all. We want fast service. Yeah, sorry, that reminds me of my dad. I used to work in a restaurant and we would wave the door in, which was a nightmare. Consistency
Oh,
is key everywhere you go.
yeah.
So back to it. So we're looking to push on from there, add some more conferences, and then what is the end goal for you? Are you looking to scale the team? Is there an actual target you're
Yes,
working towards?
yes. Yeah, I definitely feel that's going to happen, but I think that's really going to also happen with partnership. Like I eventually will partner
Okay.
with somebody, but who is that in the money world? I don't know yet. I haven't really seen anybody who has my energy and drive and enthusiasm for money. Because I had a conversation recently with somebody who's like, I've been in the financial industry for blah, blah, blah. And the first thing they brought to, I didn't even ask about their darn money, not about their personal money at all. They started complaining to me about their bills. And I'm like, and I go, isn't this interesting? We're problem solving your situation, but the reality is they're cheap over their bills. And I was
Mhm.
like, you could spend money on something and actually reduce and help the environment and do something else, but you're telling me there's no return on investment. I'm like, and how long? But you have to think about revalue. I can't imagine anybody in 2 to 5 years wouldn't be excited if you had solar panels or a windmill as backup instead of just a gas generator along with your oil heat. Like, oh, but you should see how much the people across the street are paying. I'm sure you're paying more. And when
Yeah.
the oil hits high
Yep.
during January and February, I'm sure you're paying more. And they're like, oh, well, yeah. I'm like, mm.
Or in 10 years' time, you're going to be paying more.
Yeah, I mean but I mean that's a classic money brain thing. I know what my expenses are and I don't know how to fix them. And if I am given an opportunity, I'm going to research it to death and then say there's not an answer. And my answer to that is you're wrong. And this is how we stay sick about money. We make it all about the numbers instead of about our impact. What
Yes.
impact do you want to leave? What impact matters to you more? Does it matter to you more about how much heat and oil you're spending today than what you're going to spend in 15 years and what you think conservatively what the energy markets are going to look like? I don't think anybody knows what the energy markets are going to look like. Stuff is going to shift dramatically, I think, because it
I do
just
too.
is.
No, I do too. And I don't know much about what's going on in the States in terms of that, but I know in Europe,
Yeah,
shifts already happening.
yeah, yeah.
It's only bound to follow and bound to follow suit into 2026.
And Europe is investing more in a greener infrastructure, and I congratulate them. And it could happen, and it will happen. I think in the U.S., I think it's just a question of when. But
Mm.
when you have people who are like, "Oh, but I love my thing," and I get it. And I'm not saying never have an oil heater in your house ever again. But if it's required by a fossil fuel and it eventually is going to die anyway, why are you doing this again?
Yeah, exactly. As you say, it's a long-term effort, not a short-term gain.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So again, I would put it to you. So I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
So what is your if you could go back in time, I changed my question halfway through. If you could go
Oh.
back in time and you get, yeah, and you could back to a younger self, and you could
Mm.
only leave yourself with one piece of advice moving forward that you know now, but that you didn't know then, what would you say to yourself?
Start dance classes sooner
Yep.
because I got my answer when nobody could help me.
I love that. I really do. And Jeannie, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can the listeners reach out to work with you or connect with you if they would like to do so?
Oh, absolutely. You can go to my website, jeanniedougherty.com, and hopefully that'll be in the show notes, or globalmoneycoach.com. Either one will work. And of course, I'm on the socials. They say I'm on the LinkedIn, on the Facebook, and on Instagram. And I always love a DM and a chat. So I'm always open.
Love it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining me again today. I really, really appreciate your time. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from zero to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep climbing and we will see you on the next one.